About that because most of us know that Starmer was against the royal family for a very long time. He feels that he doesn't want him to do that with the monarchy. Now, we could be in dangerous water here.
Just moments after the story broke, shockwaves rippled through Westminster. King Charles III, known for maintaining a dignified distance from political affairs, has reportedly intervened in a brewing scandal that has rocked the British political establishment to its core. According to multiple insider reports, the monarch has privately expressed deep concern over the controversial arrest of a high-profile political whistleblower linked to the Labour Party and Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Sources say he is absolutely livid. The arrest in question has set off a firestorm. Late last night, police detained a former Labour advisor turned whistleblower under the Official Secrets Act, claiming potential breaches tied to leaked documents about the government's surveillance collaboration with foreign agencies. The whistleblower had been preparing to go public with explosive claims implicating senior figures in unlawful surveillance operations on British citizens.
But do you think that he's trying to bring in, what was that guy's name, who was in charge of all the communications?
Yeah.
The arrest, carried out under secrecy and with minimal press access, immediately triggered outrage among civil liberties groups and opposition MPs. But what took everyone by surprise was the sudden and unusual involvement of King Charles, an act so rare it's virtually without modern precedent. While Buckingham Palace has not released an official statement, senior palace aides have quietly confirmed that the king raised urgent concerns during his weekly briefing with the Prime Minister.
And their way of behaving towards the royal family will be very different from what he feels about how people should be behaving.
The tone was reportedly firm and unmistakable. His Majesty is said to have questioned the necessity, timing, and legality of the arrest, especially given the individual's intention to speak out on potential government overreach. For a monarch who has historically avoided overt commentary on legal matters, this move is nothing short of extraordinary. The monarchy, while technically powerless in terms of executive decision-making, still holds considerable moral authority.
About that because most of us know that Starmer was against the royal family for a very long time.
And when that weight is applied, even privately, it sends an unmistakable signal. For King Charles to break tradition in this way signals the depth of his discomfort with the situation. Allies of the detained whistleblower, many of whom had feared the story would be buried, are now galvanized. When even the monarch is alarmed, one former MP stated, "You know something stinks." Keir Starmer, on the other hand, is said to be enraged. Sources inside 10 Downing Street claim that Starmer viewed the King's comments as an overreach and an affront to civilian control of the legal process.
To King Charles, and this is interesting because he did the opening of Parliament and he had to read out what the Prime Minister was saying.
This is not how constitutional monarchy works, one government insider reportedly said. But it's not just frustration with the king's interference, it's fear of what comes next. The arrest has sparked a media frenzy, with investigative reporters digging deep into the whistleblower's allegations and Labour's internal communications. Starmer's grip on the narrative is slipping. This isn't just a scandal, it's turning into a constitutional moment. For decades, the unwritten rules of British governance have kept the monarchy and politics in their separate lanes. The Queen was famously disciplined in this regard. Charles, however, has always been more opinionated, and while many believed he would mellow with the crown, this moment suggests otherwise. Critics argue that even private commentary from the king on legal arrests could be construed as undue influence. Supporters, however, believe he is acting out of genuine moral obligation to prevent a miscarriage of justice and the suppression of truth.
Thing for the country, and I'm wondering what the direction of travel is with that, because that's a big move to just suddenly do one person. He needs to hold a referendum or something like that.
The arrested whistleblower, a former cybersecurity advisor with intimate knowledge of data sharing agreements between the UK and international partners, had recently made contact with journalists at major British outlets. Leaked communications suggest that he was preparing to reveal documents showing unlawful mass surveillance programs conducted without without parliamentary oversight. More controversially, some of the programs were reportedly greenlit during Starmer's tenure as Director of Public Prosecutions. That connection, now under renewed scrutiny, has the potential to severely damage the Prime Minister's credibility and legacy. Protests have already erupted across London, with demonstrators accusing the government of political censorship and authoritarianism. Free the Truth, red banners held aloft in Trafalgar Square. Civil rights groups, including Liberty and Big Brother Watch, have condemned the arrest as an abuse of power. The scandal is also reigniting long-standing debates about the UK's use of secrecy laws and the lack of protections for whistleblowers.
Has done in changing who goes to the...
And also, obviously, King Charles, it being a monarch is a hereditary thing.
As the storm intensifies, Starmer finds himself in an impossible position, accused of weaponizing state apparatus to silence critics, while simultaneously being publicly contradicted by the head of state. Internationally, the affair is being closely watched. Human rights observers in Europe have called for transparency and due process, while the American press is beginning to draw comparisons with past NSA whistleblower cases. Diplomatic circles are buzzing over the possibility that this scandal could even strain intelligence-sharing relationships, especially if it emerges that British citizens were unlawfully surveilled at the behest of, or in coordination with, foreign agencies. And then there's the royal family's role in all of this. Though King Charles is acting quietly, there is internal division among palace advisors. Some fear that his intervention could damage the institution's neutrality and provoke a political backlash. Others believe that this is a defining moment for the new monarch to distinguish himself, not as a passive figurehead, but as a conscientious leader with a spine.
He feels that he doesn't want him to do that with the monarchy. Now, we could be in dangerous water here.
Royal watchers note that Charles has long been vocal about matters of ethics, the environment, and public duty. This, they argue, is simply an extension of that legacy. Still, it's uncharted territory. The constitutional implications are murky. Could the monarch's comments be used in court? Could they influence public opinion in a way that indirectly affects the outcome of the case?
It's good that they've started with loads to do, but actually you really have to think about these things carefully, and you have to think what Britain is really like.
Legal experts are split. Some warn that we may be approaching a crisis that tests the very limits of Britain's unwritten constitution. Others suggest this may usher in a new understanding of royal responsibility in the modern age. Back in Parliament, the opposition parties smell blood in the water. The Liberal Democrats and SNP are demanding a full inquiry into the arrest and any potential abuse of surveillance powers. Green Party MPs have called for immediate whistleblower protections to be written into law. Even some Labour backbenchers are beginning to express unease, worried that the scandal will engulf the party just as it gains ground with voters. Starmer, once seen as the clean-cut alternative to Conservative chaos, now finds himself mired in an escalating storm that he cannot control. The media, naturally, is feasting. Headlines blare with phrases like Starmer's surveillance state and the Crown's quiet rebellion. Pundits are speculating about everything from snap elections to cabinet resignations.
Who brought in to make a fresh life into Buckingham Palace communications team.
The story has become a prism through which deeper tensions in British society are being refracted. Between state power and civil liberties, between monarchy and democracy, between truth and secrecy. And all of it began with an arrest that was supposed to happen quietly, under the radar, without fuss. Instead, it has triggered a chain reaction that now threatens to upend the relationship between the government, the public, and the monarchy. Every hour brings new leaks, new documents, new statements from outraged officials and concerned citizens. The drip of revelations is relentless. As night falls, the Prime Minister remains holed up with advisors, reportedly fuming over what he sees as a loss of narrative control. Meanwhile, King Charles, in his understated way, may have just redrawn the invisible line that separates royal silence from sovereign conscience. Whether this intervention is remembered as a brave stand or a constitutional misstep will depend on what comes next. But for now, one thing is certain: the UK is in the middle of a political and royal reckoning unlike anything seen in decades.